Welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast, where we are finding hope and healing one episode at a time. No appointment needed, no rubber gloves, and no copay. Just a healthy dose of life lessons to help equip you for this wild journey we call life. Hey everyone, this is a friendly reminder that we are here for entertainment purposes only. We may not even be that entertaining at times, but this is not medical advice. Talk to your doctor, check with your healthcare professionals before making any lifestyle changes or medicine changes. What we're talking about is our clinical experience and what we've seen. And so if you really want our advice, you can consult us. You can actually consult me as a doctor, or you can consult my guest and get all your questions answered. But we can't give free medical advice because we can't pay our bills with that, but we can help to educate you a bit and allow you to think a little bit. And always reach out to your medical professional before making any lifestyle changes. Thank you. Hey everyone, we made it to March. Enjoy this episode brought to you by Health Code, GETHLTH.com. They're doing great stuff. They have a great berberine product that I love that I'm using with my patients. And it has turmeric and anti-inflammatories and all that for us to recover from our hard workouts. Hopefully we're still doing those in March. And also they have their great shakes. Of course, the chocolate macadamia is my favorite. Also, they have their creamy vanilla. They have a vegan option with fermented pea protein, which is their claim to fame right now. They've really reached a lot of people with that. It's expensive to make that, but they're taking a bite to make sure they get that product out to people. So anyways, thank you for listening. Patreon supporters especially, thank you. Greatly appreciate your support. It's less than 1% of the listeners, so we hope that a few more jump on board there so we pay our guys and not have to take another sponsor, hopefully. But again, thank you and happy 2025 to you. Keep up the good work.
Discover a new path to wellness at Arizona Metabolic Health. Dr. Brian Lenzkes offers advanced medicine and personalized care, treating the root causes of your health concerns, not just the symptoms. Whether you're seeking direct primary care, effective diabetes management, or medical weight loss, with a holistic approach, our team is here to guide you every step of the way. Visit ArizonaMetabolicHealth.com today to learn more about our innovative health solutions.
Hello and welcome back to the Life's Best Medicine podcast. Today, this guy doesn't need any introduction, but I'll do a quick one. Mark Sisson, Mark's Daily Apple, Primal Blueprint, and he also has a new book. He has a ton of books out there. If you just Google him, you'll see 1,000 things. But also his new one, Born to Walk, is coming out. So I'm just going to soak up some information here. So Mark, welcome.
Thanks, Brian. Great to be here.
It's great to have you. I was shocked. Your people reached out to him. I'm like, he wants to come on our podcast? Are you kidding me? And you're coming on my other one, Low Carb MD. So it's an honor. Thanks for all you do. I mean, all your primal stuff, all that. I mean, it's over the years, it's really helped me because I've struggled with weight. My whole mom's side of the family has diabetes and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, there's got to be something better than the current recommendations. And you were just on the forefront of all this stuff.
I'm trying. I mean, it's been a long time, and it's sort of rewarding to see that stuff that I wrote 25 and 30 years ago is finally getting some traction in the mainstream. I mean, I got traction, in the fringe, but now it's kind of getting mainstream traction. So that is a very gratifying experience for me.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. So let's go back. Like, were you always just this fit, athletic guy that always took care of yourself, and that was kind of your life story that you just maintained that?
I mean, it kind of is. I was a weird kid. I was geeky, scrawny little kid who too small to play football, basketball, baseball, kind of gravitated toward running. But my mother was reading Adele Davis and the health gurus of the time. And I found myself kind of reading those books and getting interested in anti-aging from like the ages of 12 and 13. It was weird. And almost to a fault. I mean, I think I became, orthorexic or early on and had to make some corrections there, some course corrections. But for the most part, I've been dedicating my personal life to performance in ways that I could enhance my own performance, whether it was running in terms of running fast times as an endurance athlete, or whether it was in the gym lifting heavier weights or becoming faster or stronger at whatever it is I'm trying to do, as well as mental performance and trying to do well in school and crank out books and be a productive citizen. So I've always kind of had that drive. I don't know where that comes from. If it's genetic, my dad was an artist, a painter. I grew up in a small fishing village in Maine, so I had that sort of New England work ethic, that Puritan work ethic that you got to go grind for life to have meaning. So who knows? But here I am today.
So are you a type A guy, like just
Yeah,
focus and like always driven and all? Yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah. I'm type
triathlete,
A. Yeah, I'm
triathlete doing all this crazy heavy lifting, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, type A for sure, and a bit of a introvert mostly. Although I can turn on my extrovert pretty readily if I'm called upon. But always feeling like there's something I need to do, not necessarily to make money or for any other reason. Then I just feel compelled to share what I've learned in my life with other people.
Is there anything looking back that you go, yeah, I probably would like that you've changed your view on, or that you think maybe you would do things differently now that you've have some life experience?
Well, I don't want to jinx my own health, but I spent 15 years as a painting contractor, bathing in toxic, fume-laden, volatile organic compounds, and thought nothing of it. I mean, I was, that was how I supported myself as an endurance athlete. I was before the days of prize money and any of that was available for the endurance community. I had to support my running habit, racing around the world and competing in big events by making a living. And I was a painting contractor, so I monkeyed up and down ladders all day long.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
I was the best paint. I'm still to this day the best painter I've ever met. I was really good at it. Made a lot of money. I mean, I was.
You can get those lines right
Oh my
on
God,
the
that was.
ceiling. Oh my
But
gosh.
that's your type A. That's your. That's the focus and
Perfectionist stuff.
all
Yeah,
these things kind
awesome.
of come together, and whether they make sense at the time, they certainly make sense when you connect the dots in hindsight, right? And for sure, I was very meticulous in being able to, I could paint a window that had 16 sashes on it, faster than anybody I knew, and I was, I was able to. I mean, I was making $100,000 a year as a single individual in the early 80s, late 70s and early 80s, just painting. And so I had made a good living doing it. And, but, at some point, I ran out of mojo for that. I ran out of steam for that. Anyway, when you say, is there anything I regret? I mean, I did that for a long time. So I exposed myself to a lot of pretty unpleasant chemicals that were many, many years later banned by the state of California, for instance.
Oh yeah, solvents and all those. There's so many things out there. Yeah,
Oh,
lead paints and yeah, just
oh,
crazy
that's
how much stuff. Like when I was a kid, we did all that stuff too, and oh
yeah,
man, I killed some
yeah,
brain cells off.
yeah,
We could
yeah.
have been something, right? If we didn't have all those solvents. So are
Exactly.
you? How about family games? Like you have game night. Are you the most competitive guy around, and everyone's like, oh no,
It's tough.
Mark's
So
gonna.
my wife loves backgammon, and I refuse to play with her because she's competitive too. And so we try to keep peace in the family that way. We do have a number of family games that we play as a family. We every year we take a couple of extended family vacations. When I say extended family, they're not extended vacations; they're extended family that take vacations. There'll be 20 of us.
Wow, that's
We were
awesome.
just Yeah, we were just in Aspen for Christmas, and so we had a couple of game nights there. We I don't know if you know code names. That's the new thing that we're all into here. So that was one of the many games that we played. But uh, my family's into card games, things like that. But I've interesting because we're going to take a bunch of tangents, I can tell already on this conversation. But in raising my kids, I tried to be competitive with them, but not. My wife would get pissed off because I wouldn't let them win. On occasion,
Like
on
every once
occasion,
in a while, just yeah,
yeah, yeah,
exactly.
but so that when like for instance, when my son started beating me at certain games, it was valuable, right, to everybody, to him, to me, to the whole thing. So, but yeah, very very competitive family.
Yeah, then you pretend like you let him win. I just let you win that time. But as you get a little older and have a
Yeah,
bad
I
hip and
didn't.
all that.
I never did that. I was pretty good about acknowledging, a pure victory there.
Yeah, so you've just been such a leader in all this stuff. And did you take heat when you first came out and you started talking about this stuff, or the standard medical community or people around, or did you kind of just fly under the radar, or how did that work?
Yeah, I took heat. Sure. Um, I mean, I got one of my favorite acknowledgments early on was I made the I forget what it was called, the Center for Science of the Public Interest or something like that. One of the major groups out of Washington, D.C. that was always sort of a vegan-based, vegetarian-based organization, named my cookbook one of the 10 worst cookbooks of the year because it was
That's
meat-centric.
amazing.
And I used that. I wrote up a press release um, bragging about the fact that I'd been named to this top 10 list. And so I sold like 10 times as many books the next week or two from that. I've had a lot of mainstream uh, medical people in particular, MDs and cardiologists, because I was early on this bandwagon of saying, look, we don't have to really indict cholesterol the way we have. We don't need to legislate it or medicate it out of existence. Cholesterol and fat are not the proximate cause of heart disease. Exercise is not a great way to lose weight. So if you're thinking about using that, you're going to be running up against a wall with that. Lots of things over the years, that statements that I made that did not sit well with the mainstream medical community or with general health practitioners. But over time, these became real things. I was early, certainly in the paleo sphere, talking about a meat-centric diet, but plants and animals and just natural foods makes total sense to me. But then, arguing that nobody needs more than 150 grams of carbohydrates a day, except maybe world-class elite athletes. And I caught a lot of flack for that. But these things are starting to bear out over time. So
So I'm sure all these guys are calling you back and apologizing now, right?
yeah,
It's like, oh,
yeah.
you were
Well,
right
I get
after
apologies.
all.
I get apologies every day. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
right. Yeah.
no, I
I
don't.
know that's hard. You're one of those unfortunate people who is right but too early.
Yeah, that's been, I think, probably my superpower is sort of nailing things early and quite often too early. Some of the things I did get right. I mean, I think with Primal Kitchen, the food company, if we'd launched that 5 years earlier when I wanted to, probably would have failed because the world wasn't ready to hear that, certain fats are horrible for you and others are pretty damn good for you. I mean, you have to understand the nuances of fats and oils to understand their implications in health. So our spending 10 years building a platform with Mark's Daily Apple and writing books about omega-6, omega-3 combinations and extraction processes for certain oils, and how certain seed oils are probably pretty damn bad for you, but certain other oils that are pressed, like avocado oil, might be actually beneficial, not just not bad, but actually beneficial. Had we launched Primal Kitchen 5 years earlier, probably would have flopped. So sometimes I get my timing right once in a while.
Yeah, being patient. And I remember the first time I saw, like, I'll try this like barbecue sauce. It's always terrible when you get low carb or whatever. And it was
Yeah.
good. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is good. Oh my, ketchup is good. Stuff like
Yeah.
that a lot of us cut out of our diets because we knew how bad it was. And to have a product out there that can fill that need.
Well, even the luck of having the first product that we were able to commercially make at scale be the avocado oil-based mayonnaise. And you say, well, what is it about mayonnaise? Well, first of all, it would just happen to be. I was at the same time simultaneously working on salad dressings, barbecue sauces, ketchup, and mayonnaise. And it was a mayonnaise that was the first thing we were able to make. And it said, okay, let's just launch this and see what kind of traction we get. And it turned out mayonnaise was probably the single best product we could have launched with, because for the longest time, the paleo community, the primal community, the ancestral health community, whatever you want to call it, had kind of given up on tuna salad, chicken salad, potato salad, coleslaw, all of these different things that used mayonnaise, because
Yeah.
every mayonnaise was horrible. And so this mayonnaise became sort of the holy grail of bringing a lot of food that people had given up back into their diet. Egg salad. I mean, name it. And
Yeah.
so it was kind of a lucky occurrence that was the first product that we finished, and it took off like gangbusters.
And because I tried making it myself before, I'm like, forget it. I'm buying
Yeah.
it because it was all screwed up. That was, I don't know why it never came out right. So I'm like, that's it. I'll buy it. So yeah,
Yeah.
having that, and then I eat Greek yogurt, different things like that. But having mayonnaise that you can, and because a lot of the big brands you see, you'll say with olive oil, and then you look on the back label and it says canola oil, safflower oil, olive oil. They put like one little drop
Yeah.
at the bottom, and it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like the
Ridiculous.
bad marketing that's out there,
Exactly. Yeah.
and people think they're doing healthy stuff.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
over all these years, now all of a sudden you're the healthy guy, the fit guy. The rest of us would see pictures of you with your shirt off and not like right? Right.
Yeah.
To see how
Yeah.
healthy you are. But to have people criticizing you when you're in such good health, you're at the peak of all your sports and leading people, and people are having unbelievable results. So many people I would come across that they would read your book and go, oh my gosh, I'm so much healthier, now. And it's amazing to see that impact and how the medical community and the standard nutrition would attack you on that.
Well, agreed, but it's also really gratifying to see all the MDs, people like yourself who kind of understand it and go, geez, I wish I'd learned this in medical school, but I didn't. And now I have a chance to kind of reframe my practice around prevention and quality of life rather than putting out fires. I use that term lightly now, given the fact that
Yeah.
as we speak, my daughter's house just burned down in Palisades,
Oh
and
gosh.
the house that we lived at for 6 years. But anyway, I don't mean to digress on that.
Oh no, I think that's so important. I mean,
Yeah,
that's like we're not immune to all those things. A good friend
yeah,
of mine just lost their house too.
yeah, yeah.
When we had
But
the fires in San Diego, there was a bunch of fires that went through, and I was in the doctor's lounge, and one of the old docs was there, and I said, "Hey, is your house okay?" And, people were asking, so I asked him, "Is your house okay?" He goes, "Yeah, I wish the dang thing would burn down." I said, "Why not? Why do you think that?" He said, "Well,
yeah.
because my ex-wife has it now." And I was like,
Oh,
oh,
Jesus.
"Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
okay, bitter."
It doesn't work. Yeah,
Yeah, but I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah,
That's just so it's such a devastating situation.
yeah, yeah. But anyway, so I was talking about putting out fires and the sort of standard medical practice, which we still have in this country, which is all triage. It's all figuring out what's wrong with people too late because they went down a path of I would say inappropriate lifestyle choices. On which they had no guidance, and that was, I think, my original intention was to help guide people to points where they could stem that decline. They could alter their health through diet and exercise and play and sleep and things like that. So that was really the impetus for my wanting to put my books out there and craft a kind of a life strategy, a template that we could all kind of use as a guideline to avoid getting on this medical, slippery slope.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. It's hard finding that balance where some people are every macro, everything they're writing down, they're stressed and tense and everything. They're looking at everything, and other people don't care about anything they're putting in their body, and they don't even look at the ingredients at all. And it's hard to find that balance of saying, okay, how do I be as healthy? And then, like you said, play, have fun. And one of the first thing I ask my new patients is, what do you do for fun? And a lot of times I get a blank stare, like, what do you fun? I'm trying to
What's
survive
fun? Yeah,
life. I'm miserable all the time.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's doing stuff like we were talking about before, enjoying your family and going out and playing games and having all your family together. Those are the kind of the important things.
No, they're the important things. I mean, they're the things that you do all the other stuff, in order to be able to enjoy time with your family. I mean, I've said for the longest time, your number one priority after the age of 40, and maybe it's after the age of 25, is your health. You need to be healthy so that you can not just take care of your family, provide for them, and support them, but to enjoy them, to hang out with them, to go run around and wrestle in the backyard, or throw the football or the frisbee, or play games, board games, whatever it is. My whole reason for being is to extract the greatest amount of enjoyment and contentment and pleasure and fulfillment out of every possible moment, and that includes food. Like, I want to enjoy every bite of food I eat. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to eat ding dongs and ho hos, all day every day. It means I surround myself with food that I love to eat, that I know is good for me, that tastes great. I know when I've had enough. I know when to push the plate away. And these are little kind of, I used to even refer to them as life skills. I think it's less than that. It's just like intuitive things that we do where okay, I've eaten something that's good for me. I've had enough of it. I'm going to push it away. There'll be more if I need it later. I'm going to go out and take a walk now because I know that that's good for me. I know it's refreshing. I know it'll kind of recalibrate my mental mindset. I'll burn a little bit of fat while I'm doing it. I'll get some fresh air. I'll breathe in some oxygen. I'll get some negative ions from the ground. I mean, all these things which are we evolved to participate in, and we evolved our bodies expecting this from us. That's been my mission, is to just discover these hidden genetic switches that we all have and figure out ways that we can incorporate those benefits while enjoying life, while enjoying the food we're eating, while enjoying the time we're spending with our friends or our loved ones, while enjoying the work we're doing, while feeling like we're making a contribution and being productive, having a reason to get up in the morning. All of these things are what give life meaning, not chasing steps on my Fitbit or scores on my sleep tracker or wearing a CGM, and then kind of figuring out that eating apple pie at the end of a meal isn't necessarily that good for me. So
Yeah, sometimes it's good to have those markers. You go, oh, this isn't good. Eating
yeah,
a bunch of rice, for instance, you see your sugars go crazy, and people freak out about that.
yeah.
And yeah, so now as we're aging here, these times catch up with us, and you just had a hip replacement.
Yeah, that's been an interesting experience. So I was, as a runner in the late 60s, early 70s, and then was a triathlete into the 80s, and have put my body through a lot of abuse, thinking it was good for me. I wasn't until later in my life that I realized that I was beating myself up for no apparent reason. But I ran 100 miles a week for 7 years, and then I was, and then I had a diet that was not supportive of that. So I think I had some osteoarthritis as a result of a grain-based diet that I maintained until I was in my late 40s. And all that stuff eventually caught up with me to the point that because I still work myself pretty hard, I still like to play ultimate frisbee. I don't run for the sake of running, but I sprint. And I do a lot of hiking. And when I'm hiking, sometimes I'll break into a sprint or a run on the trail. And all these things are really important to me. They're activities that I love to do and I want to do, and I want to do them as long as I can. And starting about 2 years ago, I had an incident on the trail where I was not knocked off, but I missed the trail and slid down about 15 feet and hurt my hip. And so I went to to get an X-ray and MRI, and the doc said, nothing immediate, but you're a candidate for a hip replacement. And I'm like, well, I don't feel like I need one. He said, well, you'll know when the time comes. And then last summer, I was in France, where I spend 2 months every year doing a lot of hiking, and on a regular daily basis, my hip got worse and worse, and I had been limping for the last 6 months, and real sharp pains every time I stood up from sitting down. So I knew what he meant was when he said, "You'll know." So I scheduled this hip replacement in early December. And I'm 5 weeks out now, and I'm 95% recovered. I mean, it's amazing how easy this has been given my expectations. I was walking the next day. 2 days later, I walked a mile. 3 days later, I walked 2 miles. I can, as of now, I can ride a bike as hard as I want. I can run a little bit. I'm not a big fan of running anymore, but I can run if I want to. So I'm coming.
Man, this is so quick. I mean, you healed so quick. I mean,
Yeah.
going in with good protoplasm, being in good shape, and not carrying around extra 80 pounds, all those things, it just helps you with that recovery.
So the doctors, I had doc team, and they remarked when they cut me open that I was going to be a good candidate for recovery. Look, going into this, I knew that I wanted to rehab quickly, and I want to come back, to normal quickly. So I did a lot of work going in. I still did leg days. I still did anything that I could do with my legs that didn't hurt, that didn't cause me to compensate with a gait or stride or anything like that. I did. So I could ride a bike. I could do an elliptical trainer, which I used aggressively for the last month going into this. So I went in really prehabbed, if you will, knowing that I was going to rehabilitate quickly coming out. The alternative, which happens to a lot of people who get a lower limb replacement, a knee replacement or a hip replacement or something like that, a joint replacement, not a limb replacement, sorry, and they've already spent 2 years frustrated that they can't do anything.
Mhm.
They let their muscles atrophy. They give up. The pain's too much. And so by the time they get to the procedure, to the surgery, they've atrophied so much that when the surgery's finished, they got to start from zero on their rehabilitation. And that was not appealing to me at all. So, I would, I'm going to write a little treatise, I think, for my doctors, because I have a number of things that I did going in and coming out. One of which was, I have this new shoe company called Paluva. I have this
Yeah, I was
5 foot.
going to ask you about that. They're pretty cool.
And thank you. And I wear them exclusively. And I think my ability to reacquire a balanced gait was in large part due to the fact that I wear these minimalist shoes that splay my toes outward and allow me to walk with a plant the heel, roll off the big toe, plant the heel, roll off the big toe, and consciously rewire the brain, even in the face of a lack of maybe some innervation because of the cutting of nerves in that area. And the fact that when they go in to do that surgery, they have to like literally take the femur out and cut off the end of it and put that thing in there. And so there's a trauma to the muscles that takes months to kind of fully recover. But you want to do it in a way that's balanced and not immediately go into some compensatory stride or compensatory action that's going to, create an imbalance that you're going to have to then spend more time rehabbing to recover. Point being, I've got these little, God, I hate the term hacks, but I'm going to use it. I got these little hacks that I use that I think really assisted me in coming back quickly.
Yeah, and having shoes, like I remember when Five Fingers came out way back in the day, and now the progression. And I have to ask you about this. You're in business with your son, I understand.
Yeah.
How's that work out?
Amazing. No, it's one of those things that I always wanted to do.
Is he a super athlete guy too, like you? And
no, so it's so funny. My son is the best athlete I've ever met.
Wow.
Every sport he picks up, he does well, and he's not tall, he's not huge, he's 5'10", my height. He's about my weight, but he's a student of every sport. So whether he was playing AYSO All-Star Soccer, he would know exactly where to put the ball to feed his teammates. Whether it was Little League, whether it was he was on the Olympic development volleyball team. He just decided he didn't want to play soccer anymore. He's going to play volleyball. He'd never played volleyball before, and the next thing you know, he's like one of the stars of that team. He's 31 now. He picked up golf about 3 years ago. He's playing to a 2 handicap now. He's the best ultimate frisbee player that I know of in Southern California. He's got not only an incredible throw, like he can throw better than anybody I know, but you'll watch him go up at 5'10". You watch him go up in a crowd of 3 other guys that are 6'4", and he'll out jump them and wind up with a frisbee.
Wild.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously,
it must be the shoes. It's got to be the shoes.
Well, so the shoes weren't part of his equipment until about 3 years ago. But since it is interesting, we have a golf shoe we're coming out with in June. Wow. And he's very excited about that because he's only worn this prototype that we made about a year ago, and that's what's taken 6 strokes off his game is these new shoes. So wow.
All these guys are like 6 strokes. Okay, I'll get
them. No, exactly. People pay really good money to take a stroke and a half off their game, right? No, we've already got a bunch of top teaching pros who are wearing the shoes because with golf, one of the things look, every sport relies on feet. Like your feet are your connection with the ground. It is what connects you to the universe, and you need the ground feel. You need to feel the bottoms of your feet need to feel what's underneath. They need to feel the temperature, the tilt, the texture of the ground. And with that information, the brain knows exactly how to orchestrate the kinetic chain from the bottoms of the feet up through the neck. Without that information, if you're wearing thick, stiff, cramped shoes, you lose all that information, and you wind up, your brain winds up guessing. I guess I bend the knee this much. I guess I roll the ankle this much, and people get injured because if you run barefoot across a football field, even if that field has like gopher holes in it, you won't sprain an ankle, because by the time even you're barefoot, you step in a hole, by the time you by the time you land on that foot, the brain already says, oh my God, there's a little off
Wow.
kilter here. I'll bend the knee a little bit extra here just to absorb some of the shock. So we're trying to recreate that sensation with a type of footwear that is the most comfortable shoe you'll ever wear. Number one, it's functional in the way I just described. Number two, and number three, they look great. I mean, I think. Let's see. What do I got here? I mean, this is. I didn't mean to make this be a
No, they're cool, man.
yeah.
Yeah,
So this
I
is
know.
this is our
Yeah.
sport mesh, and it looks like a normal regular shoe from the side, but it's a five-toed shoe, so it's got the five-toe articulation, and it's only 9 millimeters in what we call stack height. So in its zero drop, there's no height on the heel, and it's an amazing shoe. I've got tens of thousands of people now raving about it. So very
That's
excited.
awesome. I mean, look, they have great reviews. I was looking, I was like, wow, those are kind of cool. And
Yeah.
and you look at that, a lot of these new shoes you come out, I see people walking on I'm
Oh
like,
Jesus! Oh,
you're just
please.
gonna break your ankle. I mean,
Yes.
they're so like Hoka's. When I see those, like, oh my gosh, I have a pair, and I'm like, I wore them once or twice. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
stick with my
Yeah.
old shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get carried. So while we're talking about that, the feet and walking, now your new book is on walking.
Right. So
Going from a triathlete, and now you go, okay, now walking might not be that bad.
no, it's not only not that bad. And funny you say that, because when I was an endurance athlete, I was like, why would I walk when I can run? But no, the thesis of the book is that we are born to walk. We are born as bipedal creatures that walk the face of the planet. We populated the face of the planet by walking. We carried things walking. We sprinted once in a while, but most of our constitution depends on us walking, and maybe digestion depends on walking. Lymphatic system sort of depends on us moving around a lot and at a slow pace, not at a fast pace. So we were born to walk. Now, the fact that anthropologists will say, well, we got these big brains by hunting animals and increasing our the quality of our calories and the quality of our protein by hunting these big beasts, and we were persistence hunters. But that doesn't mean we were born to run. That means we were born to be able to run, based on all the time we spent walking and sprinting. And by the way, persistence hunting isn't running 7-minute miles to chase an animal for 2 hours. It's walking and crouching and taking a tangent and tracking and sniffing and jogging, and it's a combination of things over a period of hours that eventually wears the animal down. But you're not racing the animal for 2 hours and then sticking a spear in it. So even persistence hunting isn't an obligatory human activity. It's something we're able to do based on the other things: walking, lifting heavy things, and sprinting. Now, the fact that we can run, that's great. But today, modern man can only run by virtue of the fact that we have an unlimited supply of carbohydrates that lets us carbo load every night and go back and run again the next day and the next day and the next day. But if you look at all the really top runners in the world, it's a catabolic activity. Top runners can't keep any muscle on. And if you look at all of the research and all of the longevity studies in the last decade, they all point to muscle mass being the prime factor in not just longevity, but quality of life, the ability to participate in life and move around a lot and lift heavy things and stay strong and create this metabolic tissue that becomes a glucose sink and helps regulate glucose metabolism and all these other things that require muscle. Well, running is catabolic, and if you run too much, and you've seen it with the elite runners, they're 5'10" and weigh 109 pounds.
Yeah.
And then most of the citizen runners in these marathons that you see are overweight. They're literally 10 or 15 or sometimes 40 pounds overweight. They enter a marathon as part of a weight loss strategy.
Mhm.
Like, okay, I'm gonna train for this marathon. That'll be my life goal, my bucket list item, and I'll lose all this weight. Well, typically they don't lose weight. They just get injured. They get often depressed when they get injured. They get depressed if they miss the running. And there are so many ways that you could achieve ideal body composition in a kinder, gentler fashion on your body and improve your health and your longevity prospects rather than running. And the book is it starts out, the first 80 or 100 pages, goes through the history of the running boom and how it was a kind of a perfect storm of mismatched anthropological studies, biology, assumptions about cardiovascular health, assumptions about this guy Phidippides, who theoretically ran 26.2 miles and then dropped dead at the finish.
Uh-oh.
Rejoice, we won. He actually ran.
Mark, I'm sorry, we just cut out for a second, internet somehow.
Okay.
So you could just talk about like, the running the 26.2 miles, and we'll just have Jack edit that in.
Okay. So go back to where do you want to pick up from?
The Greek runner, was it?
Oh yeah, so yeah,
You could say-
this guy Phidippides, who supposedly ran 26.2 miles to Athens to tell the townspeople, rejoice, rejoice, we won, that we beat the Persians on the plains of Marathon. Well, that distance was 25 miles, but he didn't run that. He actually ran 306 miles over 4 days, back and forth from Athens to Sparta, and then to try and enlist their aid to help fight the Persians. And the Spartans said, "Hey, dude, this is our holiday. We can't come help you. We have to, we can come in 3 days." So then he has to turn around and run back and tell the generals that he can't bring health. Anyway, so all these people line up for these marathon races with this idea that they're honoring this wonderful guy, Phidippides, who ran to his death. He ran 26.2 miles and then collapsed the finish line and died. Didn't happen. It's a made up story.
Wow.
To the fact that the running boom was so it was enabled by thick shoes like the Hokas you just mentioned. But when I started running in the late 60s, early 70s, I ran in Chuck Taylors. I ran in Onitsuka Tigers, which were a quarter-inch thick, thin sole. And it was the bottoms of your feet that told you that's enough running for this week, Mark. And every runner. So in the 70s, 60s, and 70s, anybody who ran was self-selected as a runner. Nobody who was overweight would ever think about putting on shoes and going for a run. It was ridiculous to think that. So it was only runners who ran in the early parts of the running boom, and we were good runners. I mean, there were better runners across this country then than there are now, and I've got documentation on that. But then Phil Knight at Nike and Bill Bowerman, coach of the Oregon Track Club, said, we got all these world-class skinny runners who have good form, who would like to run a lot more miles during the week, but the shoes are not letting them do it because the shoes are just, pounding their feet up. So let's cushion on these shoes, and then they could do 80, 90, or 100 miles a week, and they can keep up with, the Europeans and excel on the world circuit. So Nike introduced these thick shoes, and I was one of the early Nike runners. I would get, my free pair sent to me every couple of months, and it was amazing. And I put in a lot of miles, and I got injured from a lot of miles, as did a lot of other people. Well, in the mid 70s, the running boom started to take off, and now Frank Shorter wins the gold medal in 1972 in Munich. Bill Rogers wins Boston Marathon in American record time. Jim Fixx writes the book of running. Ken Cooper writes the book Aerobics in 1968, which indicates that the more of this activity that you do, it's better for your heart and you'll live longer. So all these things combine. It's the idea that cardiovascular health is a new thing and we should chase it by running, that running is a good way it's a positive addiction, because Jim Fixx, who wrote the book of running, had been a smoker and he gave it up to become a runner. The thick shoes now enabled anybody who had bad form to go out and buy a pair of running shoes and he become a heel striker and start, running with bad form. And so the running boom takes off and it becomes promoted by, there's magazines built around it, and this whole thing takes on a life. It takes off. But the reality is 50% of runners are injured every year. 25% of all runners in this country are injured right now. Running is, most people are running at a pace that is too stressful for them to benefit from. So, in the book, we talk a lot about fat burning and developing your aerobic capacity and your aerobic system and your ability to mobilize fat and burn it as a fuel rather than depending on glucose and glycogen as a fuel. Most people who take on running bypass that whole fat burning system and go right into burning glycogen. And so they go out and run 6 miles or 8 miles or whatever it is, and they huff and puff and sweat, and their heart rate raises and their cortisol levels increase. And they come home and they're hungry and they're tired and they overeat, and they overcompensate. They eat more calories than they burned off. That's a normal effect from the brain's recognition of what just happened. And they don't lose weight, but they get injured and they get burned out, and the amount of cortisol and stress they're throwing on their bodies increases. The book Born to Walk is about, okay, let's maybe 2% of the population are able to be able to run and run well. They should maybe be competing and racing, but most people aren't genetically gifted enough they're not ectomorphs. They're not gluttons for punishment. They should be operating at zone 2 for 85% of their workout time throughout the course of a week, and then sprinting a little bit once in a while, lifting heavy things once in a while, and improving over time, improving their aerobic capacity, their aerobic threshold, their anaerobic threshold, their VO2 max, but in a way that stair steps toward improvement. What's happening in most of the runners in the last several decades is there's no improvement. I meet people all the time who run. I was just at a restaurant like an hour and a half ago. The manager of the restaurant is this cute little girl, and I said, "You still running?" "Yeah, I'm running." "How many?" She said, "I'm going to do 3 marathons this year," and her average finish time is 4:10. I'm like I was a career runner. I ran 100 miles a week for 7 years. I've never spent that much time running in my life. I don't know how you can do it. The fact that she doesn't improve doesn't seem to register with her. Like, if you're not improving while you're doing this, and you hurt so much after this effort, and your body is so beat up, not just from that effort, but sometimes from the training that you undertook to do that, why would you do that when there's a kinder, gentler, better way to improve your body composition, to decrease your risk for heart disease, to improve your chances for a long, healthy, happy, productive, injury-free life? Why would you do that, other than the fact that somebody told you running is the best form of exercise there is?
Yeah, and then when you have all those impacts, I know for me, I'm laughing while you're talking because I'm thinking how many times I ran the treadmill, pull my calf muscle, pull my Achilles. Like, okay, lose weight first, get in shape, do it slow, build up, because it's all about consistency too. So if you run like crazy one day and then you can't work out for 5 days because your knees hurt, you're not really getting as much benefit as you would just going out walking every day and doing these kind of activities.
I mean, so my hip replacement is a good example. Like I can't wait to get back to doing stuff, playing every day. I miss it. I crave it. I want to do it. And so when you get old, like, the worst thing that can happen to you is get injured. Like everything I do in the gym is contemplated to help prevent getting injured, not to promote the opportunity to get injured, which running does for a lot of people.
Yeah, and we see that in ex-athletes, or the college football player who's now not playing pro. They get depressed and anxious and they start gaining weight, and their life turns into misery a lot of times because they need that. They're used to that adrenaline. I have a triathlete who he wrecked on his bike, and who was messed up, and he was with some friends and they were skiing and he couldn't ski, so he was grumpy the whole time. And anyways, he had his arm in a cast and a wrap and all that stuff, and when they were gone, he goes, "I'm gonna go for a jog. I can't take it anymore." And he went for a jog, and they came back, and he was happy again. They said, "Well, why are you in such a? Did you take something like drugs or something? Why are you so
Yeah.
happy?" He goes, "No, I went for a run. I couldn't
No,
take
but I
it
mean,
anymore."
but that's a great example. We talk a lot in the book about what we call the obligate runner, whose life isn't complete unless the run was completed that day. Like, no amount of success at the job or at work, or no amount of family gathering or community matters unless they got the run in for the day. And to what end? Like, you're not winning, you're not running for a gold medal, you're not running for money. You're not even that good a runner. Sorry, you're not that good a runner. What is it about your pursuit of this masochistic activity that you find drives you to become depressed when you miss it?
Yeah, I mean, all those things, and so just so it sounds like the point of the book is do what you can do, get out and stay active.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can get out.
No, the book is all, so walking is, like, the more you walk, the better off you are. The more slow movement you do, the more you put your body through different ranges and planes of motion, the more your lymphatic system works to your benefit. It certainly it certainly benefits to your cardiovascular and cardiorespiratory system. Yeah, you got to do some some sprinting once in a while, but we talk about that in the book. And by the way, sprinting isn't just running on the track and sprinting. Sprinting can be elevating your heart rate, doing an elliptical, a rope pull machine. It could be on the treadmill, just walking uphill at 15% grade. I mean, there's all manner of ways in which we can raise our heart rate for 20 seconds or 30 seconds and then rest for a couple of minutes and then do it again a couple of times in one session once a week. And so there's nothing more efficient than having a strong aerobic system built on zone 1, zone 2 training, and then that really specific amount of sprinting that works VO2 max, anaerobic threshold, and other areas. And sure, once in a while, go out and do a time trial or practice. People say, but Mark, I'm a runner. I identify as a runner. And I'm like, okay, that's because you run 5 to 6 times a week? Yeah, that's because I run 5 to 6 times a week. And I'm like, well, what if I could have you walk a lot more, do some sprinting, train you in a way that you only ran once a week, but that one 5-mile run once a week, you were faster than any of the other runs you ever did. Would you not call yourself a runner then? Would you just say I'm not a runner anymore, even though I can run faster? Like, this is sort of the identity thing. Like, here we are with post 2024 politics, but you identify as a runner.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and you're not a great runner anyways, and you're just go out every once in a while and you hurt yourself. And yeah, so I think these are all important things because all these are into this whole metabolic health that we're all talking about now. That you've been talking about for 25 years now. It's coming into vogue. But things like this and saying you don't have to just put like. Sometimes we just want more and more and more of that thing because we get obsessed with running farther than our friends or whatever it is, and we end up hurting ourselves in the process. So it's important, some of the really long distance ultra marathoners, and a lot of them say this probably isn't good for my health, but I love doing this.
Well, but they don't love doing it. Right?
It's torture. They don't look like fun, right?
No. They don't love doing it. They love telling people that they do. I hate to be ragging on people, but there are not a lot of people who love the actual act of running unless they're doing it at a very low level within their aerobic zone, within their maximum fat burning zone, within their the zones that we sort of describe in the book. And by the way, if you can run at that optimized zone 2 level, if you can run at that level, then go for it if you're not going to get injured. But most people run at a pace, at a heart rate. By the time they break into a run, they haven't trained their body to burn fat and they haven't become efficient. So by the time they're actually running, their heart rate is already above that zone. And that's what we call the no man's land, because you get no real training benefit from that. You get the benefit from zone 1 and 2, a little bit of zone 3, and then you get the benefit from zone 4 and 5 once in a while. But if all your training is done in zone 3 and 4, day in and day out, you don't improve. All you do is practice hurting. All you do is beat yourself up with no positive outcome in terms of a reduction in your times over a race or whatever. It's called the black hole of training, the no man's land of training. And yet that's where so many people hang out.
It's hard because you want to push it harder and harder and harder instead of saying,
okay,
let me
think it has
be
value
smarter.
When you push it hard. You think it has value because you pushed it hard. Yeah.
And then, like you're saying, you add in those hard runs or those interval trainings that you throw those in here. You're doing the weights, and I want to thank you too, because I saw an interview you did, and you were talking about longevity, and basically there was a study that showed that people, if they could get out of the chair by themselves without using their hands, their chance of survival going to the ICU would be like 96% or something like that. And if they had to get max assist, it was like 0. It's time to call hospice. And so I would tell patients that, and all the time they would stand up without using their hands to see if they could do it still,
Yeah.
But getting out, walking and balancing, getting like you're saying, everything connected so that you don't fall. Like, as we get older, we're breaking hips and falling and ending up in the ICU, and it's a miserable situation.
So just to add one little color to that, some nuance to that, walking with minimalist footwear. So when you walk, you do want to feel the ground underneath, right? When we do hikes, Paluva hikes with these new shoes, or we're doing a walking tour of Europe. We're always looking for uneven surfaces. So we call cobblestones foot candy. We love to feel every cobblestone that we step on and note that the foot is landing in a different plane, in a different range every time we step. And it's all good. The brain loves it. You smile doing this, and it reinforces, it relaxes, it realigns, and it strengthens the foot with every step. So part of the walking concept that I'm trying to promote is walk barefoot if you can. But if you can't walk barefoot, walk in minimalist shoes. Don't walk in those thick, padded, cushioned shoes which typically have an elevated heel, because that's shortening your calf muscle. I saw somebody at the gym, good friend of mine the other day, who knows I'm in the shoe business. And I've told him to get Paluvas on many occasions. And he's 65 years old, and he's doing lunges. His trainer's having him do lunges, and deep lunges as he's walking across the floor. And I'm watching his foot in his on running shoes, his thick on running shoes, and it's wobbling. And I'm like, dude, your knees are not benefiting from this at all. It's going to cause more damage than it is benefit for doing this particular exercise. You want to plant your feet, have those toes splayed wide, use that great toe, that big toe, as a foundational part of literally a tripod. The foot is actually a tripod, the big toe, little toe, and heel. And that's where your stability comes from. And then from there, you can engage the glutes, because if you're unable to use the big toe and the glute are connected. The big toe is called the great toe. And in the gym, in bodybuilding circles, they have a term, great toe, great ass, which means that if you want to get glutes, you got to use the big toe, the great toe, which is why so many bodybuilders and weightlifters take off their shoes when they do squats and lunges and presses like that, and even deadlifts.
Yeah, because it's the shoes wear out too. If you're pushing weight and they get all screwed up and all that. So you talked me into Palooza. Do you have special hiking shoes too, or are they?
Yeah, we do. No, we have an amazing hiking shoe. I don't have well, I'll get it for you. Hang on. I don't know who's gonna. You can see it, right? But this is our trail shoe. This is called Brand ATR. This is a trail shoe, and this has specific grid pattern on the bottom of it. And five-toed articulation. We have a lot of trail runners and ruckers, guys who are now rucking is a new big.
I was going to ask you about that. What do you think of rucking? You think that's reasonable? I love it. I do it.
Beyond reasonable. It's probably the single best thing you could do. I ruck once in a while. I usually take a weight vest. I live in Miami, so I do want to add a little bit of a challenge to some of the walks I do. And I also do some like rehabbing my hip. I've been doing some treadmill stuff where I'm really, putting it at 11-degree tilt and grinding it out uphill. I do some backwards uphill walking on the treadmill. I don't know if you've done any of the knees over toes guy, Ben Patrick stuff, but I'll spend 10 minutes in many of my workouts walking backwards uphill. All that stuff works. It's just the running is pounding. And even if you've got a rucksack on or you've got a weight vest on, you're not pounding because you're walking. You're planting the heel and you're rolling off the great toe. And over time, that just it strengthens your feet. It makes your feet more resilient. So then, if you do step in a pothole or something, your ankle doesn't sprain. It roll. Your ankle's supposed to roll. You know that, right? Your ankle is a universal. It's a gimbal. It's supposed to roll. In order to prevent the knee from tweaking sideways, the ankle has to absorb some of that. And if you don't have that information coming from the bottom of your feet, like I said, the brain has to guess. And that's how people, will put on these stiff hiking boots, go out for a hike, and then hurt their knee because the ankle was unable to roll because the foot had no information on what kind of rock you were stepping on.
Yeah, and you can't feel it, and you get screwed up, and they end up twisting your ankle and your knees, and everything gets screwed up.
Exactly.
Gosh darn it, I knew this hour would go by too fast. I've been looking forward to this. So, Mark, what's life's best medicine for you? Like all this stuff you go, what keeps you going? What do you turn to? Like what really matters when you're in the hospital getting a hip replacement?
Yeah. I mean, what matters is family. I mean, I have children and grandchildren now, and so for me, it's kind of a circle of life thing. It's amazing. I've always told people that your job kind of is to have children as as an organism, as a human being, to pass the genetic material along to the next generation. I think people are no judgment against people who chose not to do that, but I think my job was to have children. But the circle isn't incomplete until your kids have kids. And then you go, oh, wow, that's really what it's about. So I've been enjoying family and grandchildren more than I ever could have imagined in my 30s, 20s and 30s when I was single.
Awesome, man. It's been so great having you. I got to ask you, have you ever come across Mike Rowe? You guys have a certain thing about you.
I mean, I love the guy. I think he's amazing, and I would love to meet him. And I think we get along famously.
Yeah, I
So
think you two interview. I would love to hear you. I'm going to see if I can
yeah,
make that happen at some point
yeah,
somehow.
awesome.
I think he's a great guy, and you're great.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Thanks for all you've done. Thanks for joining
no,
me, taking time out of your day. And
it's my
I'm gonna
pleasure.
go get your new. You're gonna cost me money. I'm gonna go get your new book and your shoes too now.
Yeah, so the book's called
So
Born to Walk, and we have a website. You can order, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all your favorite booksellers. It comes out January 21st. But we have a website dedicated to it. It's called borntowalkbook.com. So there's lots of additional information you can get, some downloadable PDFs and other ancillary materials, because my co-author and I, Brad Kearns, are really adamant that this is going to, transform the concept of fitness in this next coming decade.
nah, I'd say you're wrong, but you've been proving everyone wrong this whole time, right? Yeah. So yeah, as I get older, I go, yeah, Born to Walk. I like that. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. So
and then
getting out
Peluva,
hiking and doing that. Yeah.
yeah, and the shoes, Peluva, Peluva, Peluva.com is where you can look at the shoes. On Instagram, we have a lot of information there. It's Wear Peluva, Wear Peluva. Yeah, I appreciate the time. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for joining me. It was great.
All right.
Have a
Yeah.
great weekend, and
Cool.
we'll get this
All
out
right.
before your book comes out.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Take care. Thank you for listening to this episode. We greatly appreciate your support. We would greatly appreciate a positive thumbs up on all of the platforms like iTunes and Spotify or wherever you're listening. And we just thank you for our Patreon supporters. We greatly appreciate your help in getting this message out. We think there's a lot of important information, and hopefully this helps you. Have a great day, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.